Hi, I am Gill. I know quite a lot of people, either through training or members' meetings. So I run a company called Little Man Project, and we develop e-learning for a range of organisations, but we like to specialise in the charity sector and public sector, just because we like working with you guys. So have done quite a few projects for CLC members, some of which I've got examples in here, and we also run a couple of training courses, so that's kind of why I know even more people. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit random, because what I've done is just thought of all of the ideas that I think, that I could kind of cram into my 45-minute slot. And it's kind of picking up the feedback that we've had from training courses and working with people. So I think I could roughly say we've got about 50 tips in here. I'm hoping that everyone can walk away with at least 5 that they haven't thought of or aren't doing or can do. And it's going to kind of cover things like, I'm going to spend probably a lot of the time on graphics, because that is quite a big problem for people, finding graphics, creating graphics, using graphics. Bit on how you can use audio and video, both within e-learning and as kind of standalone things. And how to get inspiration, so how to kind of, I've just been handed a project, how am I going to do this? I want to do something different this time, where do I start? And then a little bit at the end about personal development and how, some free online stuff that you can use to help you develop your own skills. Whenever you hear a tip or something that you hadn't thought of, I'd really like it if you could fling your arm in the air and just kind of wave, if you don't mind. Because from my perspective, what I want to know is what's hitting the mark, so that we can do more of that in the future, potentially. Jenny, my beautiful assistant, is going to make a note so that we've got some sort of record. Can I also ask you to cheat? So if you have already thought of the idea, but I've inspired you to actually go and do it, I'll have that as a whim. That will stop you being worried that when you see something really obvious, everyone's not going to think that's the first time you thought of it. So I'm doing this for your benefit, not for me. And if you come up with an idea that has nothing to do with what I said, but is a new idea for you to do in your e-learning, I'll take that one as well, because obviously we're in an inspiring, creative environment, and so I'll have that one. I have a buffet of gifts for you, including chocolates, memory sticks, a beautiful mug. So, towards the end, when you start getting really bored of me, we'll go do some group work and you can share, and then if you can vote the best one, we'll give everyone a gift. But there actually is plenty to go around. I went a little bit overboard. Let's start with graphics. So, PowerPoint. All of those were created in PowerPoint. So your starting point doesn't have to be going to buy, you can make. So this is, as you can see, they're all a kind of collection of different shapes, and it's just how you use your shadowing and your formatting, your 3D formatting, to create those. So, great example, if you've got something like, something that's kind of rectangle, shape squared, all that we're doing here is we've got our back plate, we've put another shape on top. That's a rectangle, but we've angled it using the 3D angle. We just put a little bar at the back, put the box, a shape at the front, and suddenly we've kind of got our little bit of depth. We've got a mouse pad. I ran out of steam and couldn't be bothered to do all of the keys, but if you've got the time, you can. I've also, you can't quite see on there, but I've put some shadow onto here to kind of mirror this effect on here. That probably took me about 5 minutes, and I've suddenly got something I need. Just go back to this one. There's plenty that you can do. You just need to think about graphics in a different way. You need to kind of think of them as a breakdown of shapes, because when people are creating and selling, these vector images, these images that can be edited, that's all they're doing. If you actually open up a vector image and drill down, It's just a collection of shapes layered up, and they've just got the patience to keep going with it. But there's so much you can do in PowerPoint. So another great example of what you can do in PowerPoint is you can actually create illustrated versions of photographs. Does anyone follow Tom Coleman's blog? A few people, because this was one of his tips just recently. Yeah. So all of these started out as photographs, and somebody incredibly patiently redrew them in PowerPoint. I'll put the URL for the video, it's fascinating to watch. But all he's done is used all of the different shapes, so the freeform curve shape, and he's literally gone through and built each one. It's going to take a lot of patience, but you know, it's possible. And if that's what you need for that particular project, then that's going to be something that you can use. Another thing that Tom Coleman's quite keen to promote is the idea of using clip art. You know, most e-learning professionals say, don't put clip art in your e-learning, it's dreadful. But within PowerPoint, you can actually import them and right-click and ungroup them, and then you get to edit them. So quite a lot of the illustrated clip art is editable. We just don't know that to do it. So this is an example from Tom Coleman where he's taken 2 bits of clip art, stripped them right back, and brought them together, and suddenly you've got a scene that you can use. You didn't know that? Thank you. We've got 1. Oh, another one. 3, 4, okay. Oh, look. Shall I go back and do it? Who's been creating graphics within PowerPoint? Has anyone? So things like Post-it notes? No? Yeah, it's quite useful to Google the thing that you need and just see some of the examples that kind of illustrated versions that people have created. But a Post-it note, for instance, all that is a square, find the right colour and put a good drop shadow on so that it feels like it's slightly lifting up at the front. Job's a good one, you're done. Another good example is within PowerPoint there's a shape tool which is, has got a corner cut. And strangely enough, the corner is cut at the bottom, but if you just flip it over, suddenly you've got something that looks just like a piece of paper with a curled corner. Really simple, really quick. You know, layer those up, put them on a desk, and suddenly you've got a desk scene with some pieces of paper that you can use as part of your design. Do I get a hand for that? Yes. Excellent. Right, so here we go on the storyline examples. How many people are using the storyline illustrated characters? Yes. Have you thought about editing them to make them do things that's specific to your project? This was a project that we are doing at the moment with Hanover, which you've heard about earlier. And we needed this nice lady to discover some asbestos tiles in a bin. Now, with a normal shape, she'd have been stood there. The tiles are going to be down here, and she's looking straight at us down. It's just not going to work. So all I've done is, we have changed it since this screenshot was taken, which is why she looks like she's levitating. Jenny was most upset that I refused to retake the photograph. She isn't levitating in reality. But what we've done is we've taken 2 instances of the illustrated character, I've angled them, put them back together, joined them back up, and then just used a triangle at the back, coloured in the shape of her, in the colour of her top, to just make the difference, because obviously you can imagine we've got a cropped image which has got a straight angle, a cropped image, straight angle, and we've just layered over the top. So suddenly she's actually feeling a little bit meaningful in terms of our storytelling. It's not always that easy, but here's some examples of how we've used it in lots of different ways. So we've put her inside a car, we've sat her on a sofa, so we've cropped her legs off and placed her down, and you know, all sorts of, you know, it can be a bit of a faff, but it's worth it because we've actually, the whole point of this is that we want to stop people sitting on a sofa to work at home. We want them to use proper workstation facilities. We actually put her in bed. She couldn't wear her suit in bed, just wasn't going to work. So we used the hospital version of her and cropped it up. And then I just layered a shape over the top so that we actually had some legs in the bed. She wasn't just a floating body. And Jenny's particular favourite, this guy needed to get some glasses, so we just got a graphic of the glasses and we layered them on top so that we could illustrate the fact that he was getting an eye test. You'll also note that this photo at the end is 2 years later. We couldn't have him in the same shirt 2 years later. So again, we've had to use the hospital version to put him in a different colour. So, anyone doing that? Anyone think they might? Cool. And I should just say that, again, this one here, this had to be straight after this. So that's 2 images. He's one in hospital scrubs and one in trousers. I cut them and put them back together again so that he's got a different top on, because you just only get one outfit for the pose, or you get your hospital outfit. So we've had to bring them together to do that. Why did I go to all this trouble and not just create them from scratch? Because whenever we work with a client, we want sustainability. We want them to be able to reuse what we've done. So we took the decision at the beginning of the project with the client that we would use the storyline characters so that going forward they could mirror what we'd done in other projects. So that's why it's important. Anyone using any templates that come from Storyline? Have you seen them? Have you looked? Yeah. Don't just use them as templates. I will talk about templates later. But actually, if you open all these up in Storyline, look at all these great graphics that they're giving you for free. Don't underestimate what you can find in there. You don't just need to use the template as they've shown you and designed. Right-click on the image, save as a picture, and suddenly you've got a free sticky note and a folder and all that faffing about with drop shadows and stuff that they've done for you. You've got that as a resource. This one here is actually it's actually a number, but the beauty of having the front and the back is that you can put things inside yourself as well. So I've saved that out as a graphic for use in here, but within Storyline you could put a folder in a piece of paper inside if that kind of fits with the thing that you're doing. Has anyone pinched any graphics out of any of the templates? So, animation and movement. You can't do animation in Storyline, but you can use movement to simulate animation. So within this project, what we wanted to do was we wanted to show a desk environment. This was a workstation, so teaching people how to set up a workstation in an effective way. So what we wanted to do was show them, an reasonably authentic looking. I took the trouble to actually go to quite a lot of the offices because they were single people, individuals working within estates. So we had designed this to start with, and then we quickly had to make it a bit messier because we needed a balance between giving them a clean environment to learn and simulating the real thing, which a couple of times was very messy. So what we wanted to do was show movement. So what I wanted to do is take out each of the elements and explore them in more detail. So we didn't want to just present all the content about the chair in this environment. So we've used movement to do that. So if you click on this, the chair drops down, and now suddenly you're looking at that as an individual thing. So really simple thing to do, but actually it's very powerful in the sense that it's taking that individual object, taking it out of the environment, allowing them to explore it, and then they go back in and that object's greyed out. Just some sorts of movement has kind of really brought the whole thing to life a little bit more than just kind of being presented with that final, here's that screen, that's the end of it. So I mentioned templates. How many people, we talked about how many people have used the templates. Don't just go to this area and go to the download section. You kind of need to be within the forums as well, because lots of members of the community post free stuff. So they'll often do you a published version, a video on how to use it, and a source code to download it, source file. But it doesn't always get into the download section here, so it's worth keeping an eye out, particularly if you need something specific on the general forums. and the wider blogs that are associated with the community. There's also a number of sites that are kind of membership sites where you register. Is anyone eLearning Brothers member? 1, 2, 2. I'll talk a little bit more about them later, but you know, there are sites that will allow you to download fully built projects that you can just swap out images and text, and it's already done for you, so you kind of got a quick win. And just to prove that there are other products, that's a screenshot from their Captivate section. So I do know about other e-learning. Finding free graphics. That's a question I get all the time. So how can I find free graphics? If you're doing a flat design or you need icons, then you're awash with free stuff. What you need to do is come out of that thinking about things in the sense of e-learning and think about it from the websites. So you need to be searching for free icons for websites. You know, that it's more because people are publishing them for their peers within the web development arena. This is a really nice site. So although this is a site for icons, you can start to see that there are some useful things that could be kind of background images in terms of buildings, and so it doesn't have to just be a kind of a magnifying glass or a question mark. There's lots of other things that they're providing. And similarly with this one, those will be editable files. Now, who has got Illustrator? Ooh, okay, one more than I was expecting. Oh, 2 more. It's very expensive and most people don't get it, but your marketing team's probably got it. So if you do find stuff that you need, you know, make friends with someone in comms and ask them if they can just open that up, save that out as a GIF for a PNG or a GIF for you, and then you can use it. So there's kind of ways around. If you get really desperate, just email it to me and I'll sort it for you. Others, we've got free images, stock free images. What they will want you to do is reference back to them. And you know, there's lots of clever ways that you can do. I saw a project recently where they had just a drop-down credits on the e-learning. You could end the e-learning with some photo credits. So you can still abide by what they want without having to embed it into that particular screen, which will frankly mess it all up. But you can do it at the end, or you can have it as a drop-down thing. So, you know, do abide by their rules, but it doesn't have to be part of that individual screen, because if you are building up a scenario, then that's going to kind of make it look pretty rubbish. So I mentioned membership sites. So eLearning Brothers, if you go to Learning Technologies, they all wear orange boiler suits, I think. So they're unmissable. And they do good deals if you are there at the free bit. I think, what did I say? They've actually just put it up. It used to be about £200 or £300. But full access for the year, you'll get unlimited downloads for that. And you can see that you can get themes and scenarios already built, and graphics and audio clips and sound effects. So lots and lots and lots of content. For, I don't know, what's $400? $500, what are we talking, £400 just under nowadays at the rate. And yeah, you can download as many as you want during that period. So yeah, go for it. E-learning art used to be really expensive, and they used to sell these CDs of cut-out people, but they've kind of cottoned on to this membership idea, and so they are kind of really vying for that market against eLearning Brothers, which is a good thing. They are going to charge you $480 for the year. Very similar, lots of focus on your cutout people and graphics, but they do scenarios as well. If you need to have people in wheelchairs, eLearning Art are better than eLearning Brothers for that. They have more variety. And lots of medically people and stuff as well, if that's useful. Website deals. Does anyone use any deal sites to get their graphics? Okay, well, hopefully you'll like this one. mightydeals.com, not .co.uk, because that is something completely different. I think that's selling electricals. It's a bit like Groupon, but for web stuff. So you could get 180 cut-out images for $27, which we're talking, what's that, 21 pounds. You can get 2,000 of these cartoon vectors. You're going to need Illustrator though, if you have that to edit them. But even so, for £21, that's a very good deal as well. So register and they'll send you lots of emails, but you can also just go to the site and look at the deals for the day. So they do a lot of background images as well. So if you need some wood or a brick wall, those kind of things, you can get from there. There's also DealFuel, which is a similar kind of site. You register, just like Groupon, you register and they'll just give you deals. But they're all around kind of icons, photographs, and backgrounds. Yeah, and people, cut out people. The only thing, don't get too overexcited about their cut out people, because the problem that we all suffer with this, and this is why using the native ones within Storyline works so well, is that what you'll do is you'll find one person that's perfect, but you need someone who's going to be in different poses throughout. You know, you might want them to be talking to somebody and you might want them to be sitting down. And the problem with stock images is most of the time they're one person in one pose. It's quite unusual to get multiple, you know, maybe you'll get 3, but some of them will be ridiculous, this kind of stuff, holding things. So you can kind of, you know, you kind of see that deal, you know, and you think, yeah, that's great, that's going to take me through all my next projects, but the limitations on those are quite strong. So you just need to be a little bit careful about getting too excited, which is why it's good to stick with things like eLearning Brothers, where all of their characters will come in 10, 15 poses. So you've got more legwork on how you can use them. Storytelling. Who's using storytelling within their e-learning? Yeah? Okay. It can be a little bit of a challenge to come up with good stories relating to your topics. And so, you know, you read a lot of kind of stuff on blogs, you know, you should tell stories, it's really powerful. And then you're tasked with a project on, I don't know, give me a story, you know, like an induction. How do I tell a story in an induction? Okay, well you can, because it could be the first day and they could go through all their different things. But that, you know, it can be a bit of a struggle. We really like it, and that was what we kind of signed up to when we got the project from Hanover. So we were trying to do that for all of ours. So we had a story to do with asbestos and water management, and we also had one with manual handling, which could have been the worst day of anyone's life, because it could all be about how they did lots of bad things. But we decided to tackle it through using a documentary. So it was actually a documentary about what can go wrong with manual handling, and we had a character within Hanover who had a situation. So we invented this documentary called Back Matters. We've got our storyline character in his studio. He's then going to interview this guy, and then we go full screen onto him in his office. So you just need a bit of imagination. Sometimes even, you know, if I'd said to you, how are you going to do a manual handling, you know, I don't know, because it's going to be, you know, it's that scenario of the worst thing that could happen to somebody over and over again. You know, first this happened, then he sprained his leg, and then he, you know, tripped over a box, and, you know, it's not authentic. So, you know, you just need to kind of be a bit more creative. And if you're working on your own, that can be a bit of a struggle, because bouncing ideas is absolutely the way to go with these things. So, you know, just find someone else who's in a different department that's quite creative. You know, go to some of the other creative comms team people and just, you know, see what they can come up with. Comms are particularly good because telling stories is how they promote your organisation. So they'll be very good at that. And within the office, we have a whiteboard a bit longer than that, isn't it? And we are just brainstorming all the time, okay? And the great thing about whiteboards is you're not committing. Pieces of paper feel like a commitment sometimes. Like, oh no, if I do, we're just, making reconnections. Okay, well, if we started off with a documentary, how are we going to tackle that problem within the documentary? How are we going to do this? And we're sketching it out the whole time. So that would be kind of my top tip for how you would brainstorm. We would do that before we put anything down on paper. So as soon as we know our source material, we've gone through that, we've done our research, and then we're brainstorming. And it's only then that we're then writing an outline for the client to kind of promote that. Another example of story time. This isn't one of ours, disclaimer, but I do think it's a really nice example. I think it's very clever the way that they've used that kind of graphic novel approach. And I think, just breaking it down as a screen, as a piece of content, it's quite interesting to see that the way they haven't just used that straight grid effect, which they could have done. They've actually used different shapes, and the images is quite good. The fact they've brought one forward and things like that. So that's another way of presenting your story. We have done it so that whenever we're telling a particular story and they're paging through a conversation, we've used the effect where the screen slides away so that it looks like you're paging through a book. And so that's then the learner instantly knows that they're going through that story version. Hello. Right, audio. Who uses audio? Mostly narration, talking. Who's not allowed to use audio? Sound cards, headphones, bandwidth. One of the things that's quite a good thing to consider is if you are teetering on the do we audio, do we not, using music and sound effects is a great way to see what the reaction is, and it enhances the learning. But if they're not able to hear it because they don't have the piece, we're halfway through our upgrades or whatever, it's not detracting. If you've got narration and they can't hear it, e-learning is going to pretty suck probably, unless it's really pretty. But sound effects, it adds, but it doesn't take it away if you haven't got it. I really like music at the beginning, just a nice upbeat. There's all the kind of emotional pick-me-up things that are associated with it, but on a practical basis, I think it's just nice because the learner knows that they've started, they can adjust the sound for future reference. They're not starting a bit of narration and suddenly it's too loud, it's too quiet, I've got to do it when I'm supposed to be learning. The music just gives them that nice plane in which to say, okay, right, it's got audio, I need my headphones, I need to adjust the sound, right, I'm ready to learn. And it's a very cheap thing for you to add, very easy. Another thing, a little ping when you're presenting an email to somebody. Bit of a sound effect there for We're in the Jungle. So we've actually got narration on this, which I won't play because it's Jenny and she'll be embarrassed. Within this piece that we did for Blue Cross, we had to go in the jungle, so that little bit of ambient noise in the background just really helped to set the scene. It's actually just on a loop, so that bird can get a bit annoying after a while because he keeps going. And another example, we needed to take a photo, so just added that little bit of a touch, and actually the photo spins round. What we wanted to do was to say that they needed to collect evidence of what they'd achieved. So they were taking a photo of the bridge that they'd just built. And so we just had that little bit of a sound effects. So it's just a nice thing, adds a bit of extra, but it's not going to ruin it for somebody if they don't have the audio. They'll still be okay. QR codes. Now we've moved out of the realm of e-learning modules and that kind of self-contained build, and now we're kind of walking about and we're real human beings again. Has anyone used QR codes in their L&D work? Does anyone know about QR codes? Do they use them in real life? Would it be useful if I explained QR codes? Yes. Okay, so a QR code is a strange shape that looks a bit like that. So it's a bit like a barcode, and it works in a very similar way to a barcode. Anyone can create a QR code themselves. You just Google, and I'll put it in the presentation, QR code creator. And all you need to do is give it the information that you want the learner to be able to see. So in that instance, it's a Facebook. So when they scan their phone over that, it'll take them directly to the Facebook page so that they can like it for that, wherever that's in the university, if I remember rightly. I took that photo. So QR code readers, they're free things that you can put, they're apps that you put on your phone, and then you just scan that QR code and it'll take you directly off to wherever it is. You see them a lot, British Rail. They're not called that, are they? What are they called now? National Rail? Network Rail, that's the one. They use them a lot now for timetables. So you can just scan the timetable on the post where you would normally be picking up your piece of paper. You scan it, and now you've got that downloaded to your, and, you've got your dynamic searching and all of that. So that's QR codes. Facilities use them quite a bit. So here's switch the light off. Why should I switch the light off? Here's a little bit of a video about the eco benefits. So you're just kind of selling a request on a bit. This is a project we did, and I can age it because that's actually my husband and my son's about to start school, so he looks about 2 there. So this was along the canal path in Stroud. We were given the project to develop audio clips based on real people from the community talking about that specific location. So that when people are going on a walk through the length of, it was about a 2-mile path, there's 20 different of these posts, and they can scan those codes, and then the audio starts playing, and they can listen to real local people talking about the history, what it's like to live there, what birds they've seen, that sort of thing. We've used sound effects as well in the background. Why can't we use this in L&D? Well, that is exactly the same. So here's some of my ideas. That's me, mid-sentence. Why not stick them on the top of documents? Do you have any forms that people have to fill in and they never know what to do? It's the application form. I always think the organisations, once you're in, it's fine, but you forget how difficult the application form to apply for another job is. So why not have a QR code at the top with someone from HR saying, the top 10 tips on how to fill in the form, or, this sort of thing, or a policy document, or, the great thing is that if, how about it was a form for when you're interviewing new staff? So you've gone on the interview panel, and probably it's your first time, and you've got this form that you're supposed to grade them on, and you're like, oh, I'm nervous, and I don't know how to do the grading, and it feels really done. What are all those questions I'm not allowed to ask about age and religion and race, and I'm really nervous? How about when they're there early and they just scan that and they've got a little 2-minute video? Because that's how you're going to capture them. So that's one use. How about sticking how do you unjam a photocopier? Well, that would be great. I could just scan that, and I've learned. I've got a great idea for an induction program using QR codes, so if anyone's interested, I definitely would love to talk about that. So yeah, I think QR codes, really think about some clever ways that you might use those within your projects. So inspiration, where do you get inspiration? When you're faced with a new project and someone's asked you to do hit me Trish, what kind of project might you be? Safeguarding, excellent example. So someone said to you, you've got to do safeguarding course. Do you instantly start ticking up with ideas? Or are you sitting there with a blank piece of paper thinking, how do I bring this one to life? What do you do? So any tips from the floor, and what do you do at that point?
I create mood boards.
I love a mood board. Is that an electronic mood board or a physical, real mood board?
Both. I do both together.
Right, that's number 1 top tip. You have to choose what you'd like. I like that one. You'd like the mug? That's yours. I don't know for now. Anyone else? What else? Anyone else do? Yeah, brainstorm. Yeah, absolutely. We love a bit of brainstorming. Another idea would be, there's kind of two, you've got that kind of electronic side, the stuff you collect, you're wandering through blogs and you see a great image and you save it and you put it in a folder and you know, that's a great thing to do. You just open up the folder and you'll start paging through some stuff you've seen before. You know, and you think, oh, well, it'd be great if we could do a timeline. Oh, I remember that. I saw that at Learning Technologies. That's a great example of a timeline. Or, you know, presentation that Gill Chester gave, and there was a bit on and I took a photo. You know, save them all in one folder, and then you know you've got a starting point. And even if it's not that you're copying, it's sparking your ideas off. There's loads of other resources. You know, don't underestimate what people do in their private life when it comes to useful things that, you know, you'll get someone who's, oh yeah, I love taking photos. Yeah, I'll do that. You know, I'll get you some photos for that project. Or, you know, oh, my brother does web design. Oh yeah, he wouldn't mind, you know, putting some HTML5 stuff together for you. The wider you go, the more you'll get feedback. We also like to have a bit of physical stuff. We're an e-learning company and we love a bit of paper. So, you know, we actually have a box of flyers or, you know, stuff that we've picked up along the way. And that's, you know, that could be anything. That doesn't have to be e-learning companies. That could be, you know, just train stations. I quite often pick up a bit of literature on a train station. Oh, newspapers, they're quite, you know, you can kind of get some nice pull-out spreads from that. Just gather them all up and, you know, by the end, when you've created the screen that was based on that, it probably looks nothing like it, but it sparked you into life of how can I use this to kind of bring this thing to life. I've had a client who turned up with the inside of the Evening Standard and said, this is the roadmap to this, you know, this is what I want to present as how you go through this course. And that's what we used as our basis. But if I showed you both things, you'd never make a connection. But it was enough to communicate her thinking to me that we could. You know, just going and looking at e-learning examples. So any e-learning company worth their salt will have some examples. Ours aren't up to date, so don't judge us too much. We must get onto that. But, you know, Kineo are brilliant for it. They put all of their project. If anyone gives them a permission for them to do that, they'll get their example up. And they'll provide quite a few screens, sometimes interactive version. So, you know, just start collecting them and just create a folder of examples of the things that you really like. You know, we often think about video having to be within a little box with a player at the bottom. Well, you know, if you've got a decent enough quality, just make it full screen. You know, suddenly it's more crisp and more modern. And if your tool allows you, Storyline does, you can put your play buttons actually on the video itself. So, you know, you can do your hover over it and you stop your play, like YouTube. And do you know what? We're kind of a bit worried. We think we better put a player because how will they know how to pause? But no one teaches them how to use YouTube. They seem to manage. So, you know, get your inspiration for how they're using controls in that kind of environment, in the top sites, and mirror it. And don't be concerned by that. Another great site is elearningexamples.com, and this guy curates examples of e-learning wherever he can find it. I think the unusual thing about this site is that he doesn't just cover kind of straight traditional e-learning. He will bring in lots from the media world. You know, so we've got an election and the BBC will have the grading of the blue colours and the red and the, what's the other one? Green. And you know, you click on, you can see what they've done. So there's some great inspiration for how you can then present information about the content that you're creating. But he's doing that across the world. So, you know, there's examples from the BBC, but New York Times, Boston, that kind of stuff. So that's a great place to kind of launch your ideas from. Google it. I know we've talked about that, but don't just Google, you know, e-learning examples. Google e-learning examples induction. You know, there'll be stacks, and then just click on your image. Don't look at the text. Behance, I think that's how you say it. Anyone heard of that? Anyone use it? It's from Adobe, and it's to kind of promote the work that Adobe people are doing. There's an app for your for your phone. It's really lovely. It's really kind of high quality e-learning examples of kind of, you know, that have been graphically designed by somebody and then handed over and developed. So that's worth having a look at. And anyone using Pinterest? Get yourself on the e-learning boards. There's some great stuff to see, and it's a great way to just trawl through and get, you know, this is our board for e-learning examples. Other boards are available. Oh, blimey, I'm really... Animoto. Has anyone used any Animoto? I've got an example. You're going to kick me out of the room, aren't you? So this is actually a CLCL member who's not here. Now, all they've done is added the photos and the text, and Animoto have created that all for them for free. So that's a tour. No one's gone out with a video. Very cool. Powtoon. Anyone use Powtoon? More animation cartoon version of a similar thing. And you know those marketing videos where hands slide in and out? Lots of that sort of stuff. WeVideo, which is I think quite a new thing, which is an online editing tool for video. They sell it on the basis that it's collaborative, so that lots of people can dip in and edit the video so that you've kind of got your collaborative version. But actually it's just a great way to not have to buy an expensive video editing suite, and because it's web-based, it's really simple and easy to use. You just crack on with it. Movie Maker, which is a free Microsoft tool, is another one. You used to get it by default on a Windows install, but you have to download it now, but it's free. It's very good. Or, Mark's very upset by this photo, or you can just go and see Mark. Has anyone, Brandon House have used him? He's good, isn't he? There you go. So he understands your sector, good quality. I'm not getting this video for free because I'm telling you all these things. Personal development. Is anyone using, I don't know how to say that. You do? Yes, you are. Fabulous. There's a great course on graphic design. It's not wonderful, but do you know what? It'll tell you the sort of 4 key principles of graphic design. And trust me, graphic design courses are very expensive and very time consuming. So, you know, that's going to be a cheap route for you to get some grounding in it. There's one on instructional design. I have tried it. It's not very good because it's much more about setting up LMSs, not designing e-learning from that perspective. But lots and lots of content. And Coursera, which is a MOOC. They have one from Edinburgh University, e-learning and digital cultures. They also have a gamification course, which is very good, which I've done. It's not scheduled to run again, so I don't know if they've stopped it, but you can sign up for it and put yourself on a waiting list. So those are video-based resources, free to use. This one, again, has got an app for your phone, so I tend to watch a video before I go to bed. But you know, you can. It kind of fits into your life. Martin, are you going to chuck me out? I know, I'm going. Join the community. Who's using Storyline and isn't part of the Articulate community? Excellent, that's what I like to see. I've got a list of blogs in the PowerPoint, but here are some ones to read, or you can go to this top 10 most read e-learning blogs. Set up an RSS feed and it'll all come to you, and there's some great stuff in there. You obviously, if you're using Storyline, you're doing the rapid Tom's blog, and also the other one that name eludes me, but it's in the presentation. Don't underestimate YouTube and how much content there is on YouTube. I really like this lady, but I've got some other links to other YouTube channels that it's worth signing up for to get their content. Lots on kind of specifics, how to do things in PowerPoint or Storyline, but also some kind of wider instructional design tips. How did we do, apart from wildly run out of time? Everybody get 5 things, they think? More than 5? Any advance on 10? Success.